Hello, thank you so much for joining us for Afi Fest 2021 and for this Q&A for Întregalde. I'm Malin Kahn and I'm a programmer with Afi Festivals. We are so honored to have here with us today, Director of Întregalde, Radu Muntean. Thank you so much, Radu, for taking the time to speak.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's many congratulations on this film. It's a wonderful film. It's really just so consistently surprising and intriguing. I found that it was just constantly subverting my expectations and leading to really interesting insights about the nature of altruism. So I just want to kind of begin this conversation by asking you about your impulse to make a film about this concept and how that idea evolved for you throughout development, which, as I understand, took place over the course of nearly a decade.
Yeah, something like that. 10 years ago or 11 years ago, I found out about these humanitarian expeditions, and I thought it might be a good starting point to make a film about generosity. And I start to follow these trips. I went in two trips, one in 2012 and the other one in 2015, every time with my co-writers, with Alex Baciu and Răzvan Rădulescu, the guys who I'm writing with. So after the first trip, it wasn't so easy to write the script. We couldn't grab the plots that could satisfy all of us. But finally, after the second one, things went pretty well. We managed to write the script. The guys, Răzvan and Alex, stuck with the car with a 4x4 during the expedition, and this gave us the idea to unstuck the script, if you want. Yeah, and finally, after we finally get the money from the Romanian CNC, National Center of Cinema, we decided to move very quickly and to shoot it during the I don't know, it was, I think, the third or fourth pandemic wave in Romania. It was a lockdown, actually.
And when they got stuck in the mud, did they actually have to spend the night, or?
Almost. We managed to, I was in another car, actually, with the DOP from that time. And we managed to rescue them at about 2:00 in the night. It was pretty scary for them.
Yeah, that sounds dramatic. And the film is, it has been called kind of a horror or a thriller. There's definitely a good deal of suspense really throughout, but it does seem like you kind of circumvent those genre conventions. Was that kind of your intention, to lead the audience to a place where we kind of question those expectations?
Well, in a way, but it was not the main. I mean, of course, it was not the main purpose of the movie. It was just we needed this tension to make the situation believable, credible, and important for the characters. It's about being generous in uncomfortable circumstances, of course. So it was important to create this kind of tension. Of course, that. It was a little bit playing with the audience expectations, because we are talking about prejudice in a way in this movie, and it's also about the prejudice of the viewer. They are most of the public. It's used with this I don't know, genre movies with labeling things, and so playing with this kind of expectation and prejudice of the viewer, we were somehow talking about the prejudice of the characters in the movie, because there are it's basically in the first level of the storytelling, it's a conflict between two worlds, the people from the city, the expeditioners, and the villagers. They are somehow planets apart. And each of them have their own prejudice about the other one. So yeah, we were a little bit playing with this, but of course it was not our main goal and our main objective in the film.
And the film is named Întregalde after the village in this region of Romania. What led you to film in this particular region, and does it have a certain significance to Romanians?
Well, it was the village that I was in the first humanitarian expedition. Actually, that part of northwestern Romania, it's the best place to go in this kind of expedition, because there are these kind of villages, remote villages. They have remote houses. Villagers have problems traveling from one house to another, or to the main the local small store. So in the winter time, it's become even more difficult to do this. So these guys are trying to help them deliver some goods, playing the Santa Claus, these kind of things. That they believe it's going to change a little bit the lives of people. So the nature, it's really wild out there, and it's really changing a lot from 1 kilometer to another. There are beautiful, amazing valleys, and then this dark forest, really scary after a time. So yeah, I think it was really interesting for us to go there, especially because nature had to be one of the main characters. Actually, it's like a human. It's like a character, like it's changing a lot, and it's interacting with the characters. So yeah, that was the reason. And actually the name means Întregalde. Galde, there are two rivers there, upstream Galda and downstream Galda, and the name means the place between those rivers, the place between something. So we thought that it's also an interesting name for this kind of place in between worlds, if you want.
Yeah, sounds like a really kind of interesting dynamic, particularly because you're working with a lot of the locals, as I understand, and you're kind of there shooting a film in this hyper rural location. What was that atmosphere kind of like on set? I assume you're presumably actually in this cold forest in the dead of winter.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, we did shot this in the national lockdown, if you want, but these people are living in a permanent lockdown because they're quite isolated there. So of course, for them it was a big event. This crew coming to shoot a movie there. They didn't understand much, but and most of them didn't want to take part of the. In this process. They were a little bit suspicious about what's going on there, but we were really lucky to find this guy, Luca Sabin, who plays Kented, one of the main characters, the old senile guy that used to work in a sawmill. So this was an important part of the casting, and we were really glad to find him. Just when we were in location scouting, we found this guy. I saw him. I thought he looks exactly like the character I had in mind when I wrote the script. And it turns out that he even had the same job as the character he was about to play. So our planets aligned in that moment.
Yeah, he's an incredible character. I mean, the character itself, of course, he's the catalyst for the central drama of the film, but he's also kind of like, there are moments where he's menacing, where he's funny, and also just kind of really sad. How did you work with him to kind of construct the character at some point, or was he just given the concept of who this was and he inhabited that role?
Well, it's interesting. He knew exactly what he was supposed to do. Fortunately, he's very much very sane, and he's a clever guy. He understood exactly that he's not playing himself. This was an important part of our conversation, because otherwise, he's a well-known guy in the area. He's a father of 4. He's really a decent guy, so he would have problems to play this particular part. So that's why it was important for me to tell him every time that you're not playing yourself, you're playing this character. Of course, this character had the same job as you, but this is where the similarities ends. And he understood this very, very quickly. He came with all these stories about his personal life, his work as a woodcutter. We did insert the stories in the film because otherwise it's really it's really difficult to invent this kind of things. So in a way, he was playing parts of his own self. But other than that, we were starting to work with him as a normal actor during the shooting. I mean, we called him at the video assist. We looked at the takes, see what was good, what was wrong. I mean, these kind of things. So he became a little bit more like a professional actor towards the end of the film. Otherwise, we did communicate. I mean, it's for a non-professional actor, especially of this kind, it's really hard for him to memorize the text. So I had a small earpiece, and I was communicating with him during the take, which is in itself not a very easy thing because you have to be concentrated on what you're saying and what you're hearing in the same time. So yeah, but he managed to do this quite well.
Yeah, he's so incredible. I want to ask about the kind of complex power and gender dynamics in the film. It seems like there's a certain position of power that the aid workers have a really difficult time letting go of. Even as they're in serious danger, it remains their mission to save Kente. Yet when the women are alone, the father and son enter the scene, there's a different kind of danger and it reduces that. How did you kind of like conceive of these dynamics as you were writing?
Well, as I told you, I was in two humanitarian trips, and I saw that the guides involved in these trips, although they had the best intention, they somehow were treating this quite superficial. I mean, they were giving the gifts, they were making some pictures with the villagers so that they would put them on Instagram or whatever. So they would say, okay, this is me being generous, this is me caring about these people. But all the time they had this distance. The words didn't mix too much. Yeah, my problem with them was that they didn't actually want to know better the people they were helping. So I think there are prejudices from both sides, even from the side of the guy with the Roma people, the guy with his son, or the old people, the neighbors from towards the end of the film. They also have prejudice about people coming from the city, so they're not completely willing to know each other and to understand each other. It's a miscommunication between those two worlds, which I wanted to present in the movie. Although, again, this is not, I mean, there was for me not the final level of understanding, but it's there, it's part of the film.
Yeah, there's that moment in one of the final scenes where they realize that the locals had received the call the night previously, and it just kind of the realization of their own insignificance to these people. It's just really well done. And these scenes at the end are also really really fascinating because they kind of seem to disappear, the women at the end, and the focus is really just on Kente and kind of just what would have happened anyway if they weren't there. How did you conceive of those scenes? And also, incredibly intimate, the showering, the bathing of Kente.
Yeah, well, you're right. Towards the end of the film, I wanted to make Kente more important in the film because I wanted the viewer to empathize with him, because everybody is thinking of him like a relic, like almost like the old sawmill abandoned in the forest. Nobody would remember anything about him. He's just the old crazy guy wandering around the forest. So I really wanted to make him human, to put some biography, to to care a little bit about him. He's a human being, and I think this is the this was the meaning of the ending, of focusing more on him than the characters which were until that moment more important in the narrative. The shower scene was really important for me. I knew it from the beginning. I was afraid of it. This was the only thing I didn't tell him. I didn't tell him from the start. I just told him just prior to the shooting. You know, now actually the woman that washes him is his wife in real life. So this was made things a bit more easier. But I was really shocked by the very normal way they received the news. I mean, the normal way they look to sexuality or nudity or stuff like that. I mean, I just told him. I told her, the lady, now you have to wash your husband, and she said, okay, I do this all the time. It's no problem for me. So doing this in front of the camera wasn't any problem for them. So it was really a nice surprise for me, and I'm glad that we did it, because I think it's an important scene in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And the film premiered at Cannes, and you've played at festivals since. Have you received any responses from aid workers kind of pushing back against the more critical elements of the film?
Actually, no. I traveled a lot in Romania with the film, showing the film on different audience, and I think I had at one time one of the guys who is going in this kind of expeditions lots of times, and then I didn't feel this kind of conflict. I think that he really understood that I'm not positioning myself against this. I'm not trying to judge them. This is my main goal. I just try to understand them, to be like the defense lawyer of each character, if you want. I don't think we have here in this movie good guys and bad guys.
Yeah, not at all. It's really complex, really incredibly well written, and such a great film. We are just out of time, but thank you so much for this discussion, for this incredible film, and for allowing us to play it at Afi Fest. Thank
you very much for inviting.
To our audience, thank you so much for attending and for your continued support. Please visit our website at fest.afi.com for more opportunities to engage with the festival. We would also love to hear from you on social media at #AFIFest. Thank you.
Bye.